Yeah.
Get this thing going here. All right. Okay. All righty. Okay. You can go. Thanks, Ward. Go ahead.
So what I was saying, ladies and gentlemen, is that whenever God TV came my way, I did not know anything about the media space, and I was back and forth with the Lord, like, is this really you? And I don't want to say absolute in these landscape we live in that God said, because so many people are saying God said that he's saying a lot of things that I'm like, did he really say that? I had the same conversation with some people this week, a big ministry, God said, and I was like, I don't know. In my mind, I said, I don't know if God really said, but anyway, who am I? But I felt in my spirit that the Lord, to the best of my ability, the Lord said, yes, and don't worry that you don't know anything about media. I'll bring you the people to help you. I just need you to be faithful and obedient to what I tell you to do. And so I said, okay, I'll try. And so faithful and obedience, that's another whole subject, another sermon for another time. So maybe I'm like 50-50 with that. Uh, but I tried to be 100. Anyway, having said that, Bishop, your introduction about me was very kind and very gracious. But to be truthful, it's the team that really run God TV. I don't run it. I don't know much about the digital space, but my colleague Ian Young is on this Zoom call with us. He's been spearheading everything. His office is in London. He's actually in Florida with me, but he's in his hotel at the moment. So I'm going to turn over to Ian in a minute for him to chat. But I just wanted to share with everybody here from my perspective that um, for me it's just saying yes to the Lord. And but I remember, Bishop, in the very beginning there was a guy that was kind of trying to embarrass me, a very senior leader in media, big media company, and he told somebody, and 10 years ago, that, well, he doesn't know what he's doing. Ward Simpson, he didn't know what he's doing. So this guy called me up and he said, hey, this man said you don't know what you're doing. And I said, well, he was right. I don't. Well, that's the deal I made with the Lord, but I'm learning every day. And so it's been 10 years, and we've certainly learned a lot. And one thing I'll say to everybody watching as well, what we're going to talk about today, I just wanted to say this. I was talking to some people this past week, huge ministry, and they are becoming more and more of a media minded company, ministry. But as I was listening to them, I felt I needed to remind them from my perspective. I said, look, you need to understand that media is a tool. Media is not the end. Media is not the mission. The mission is taking the good news of the gospel to the ends of the earth. The mission is discipling. The mission is preaching. The mission is the gospel. The mission is the kingdom. And if you mistake the mission and put media as the mission, you're going to run yourself in trouble. So even for us, we remind ourselves that even though we are a media company, our mission is the gospel. And we don't see God TV, we don't see ourselves as a ministry anymore. We specifically don't have any personalities. If you watch God TV, you won't see a husband and wife team. I'm not saying that anything is wrong with that. I'm just saying we're not that. We are a platform that would like to partner with ministries like yourselves to take your voice to the ends of the earth. So you are the missionaries, you are the pastors, you are the evangelists, you are the teachers, you are the apostles, you are the prophets. We are a platform. And what we've been doing these past 5 years is we've been developing a holistic approach, because how we understand traditional broadcasts is that we sit in our chair, we turn on our television sets with our remote, we subscribe to whatever cable company you have or satellite company you have, and you watch all of your channels on that platform. So, for example, here in Pensacola, where I live, the big one is Cox Cable. So traditionally, I would subscribe to Cox Cable, and Cox would bring a box into my house, and all the channels that I pay for, and I can't pick and choose. You know, they tell me, here are the bundles. Here's package A, package B, package C, and so on and so forth. Then it changed, you know, where some of these traditional broadcasters were letting you pick your channels to some degree. Um, but now everything is shifting to digital. So now people's habits, especially the younger generation, they they watch content not by subscribing to Cox Cable or Comcast or one of these, but by watching Netflix or YouTube or all these different digital platforms. So the bottom line is, how do we get eyeballs? How do we get the world to receive the good news of the gospel? How do we get men and women in our neighborhoods, our cities, our states, our countries to watch and to listen to what we are trying to tell them? How do we do that? Traditionally, we did it through broadcasts, but now we have evolved into more of a digital landscape. And this is more what we want to talk about today with you. It's a holistic approach where it's part broadcast and part digital. And digital has its own understanding. Different people understand it differently, but just understand digital to be everything to do with the internet. So I watch God TV and I watch all of my content via digital. I don't subscribe to any of these traditional broadcasters, but people still do. So I'll join in and add some more from time to time, but I want to get straight to Ian, who is the professional here and who has been spearheading things. And we have been seeing some amazing results with our clients who've been using our programs. So, Ian, thank you for joining us today. I know you may have a little jet lag coming all the way from England, so maybe you don't. Maybe you're as fresh as a daisy. I haven't seen Ian for the day as yet. So, Ian, over to you. God
Thanks,
bless.
Ward. Good morning, everybody. I hope my accent, I'll have to speak slowly. Ward says sometimes I forget that I do have an accent and I'm hard to understand sometimes. But it's very nice to see all of you. And thank you, Ward, for the lovely introduction. I like to say that Ward really underplays his part at God TV. He gives us all the glory and God all the glory. But honestly, we couldn't do what we do without him. So we thank God for him. And we love you, Ward. So thank you for
Thank you.
everything you do at God TV. Yeah, I think I'm going to start from the very beginning, and I might trip over some of the things that Ward said. I really agree with his framing of who we are and what we do, and you know that our vision and mission is to reach the world for Jesus with the gospel through media, but not with our content, with your content. And most ministries, in my experience, start with a framework of you need to do three things in media. And I'm just giving a media overview to then get into digital. And we split these into three areas. So production, distribution, and promotion. You might want to write those down. And my experience is when we go work with most, churches, ministries, whether they're a long way down that journey or a short way down that journey, the thing that they get hooked into is production, because you have church teams and ministry teams that love buying new cameras, love doing new sets on the stage, and love buying new lights and new sound systems. And when I look at their budgets and what they're spending on media, a majority of that spend will be in production. And yet the thing that has the most impact is what they send outside of the church in terms of that's where media has its impact, is on screens, and they're spending little to no money often on the distribution and promotion part. And that's where media really will track and grow and reach more people. So I would say that's the first area every ministry needs to look at when we do a review, even of digital, is what is your media spend as a whole, and how are you dividing that budget? And I would say a good starting place is, if you're not 1/3 production and 2/3 promotion and distribution, then you need to have a good look at that, because you're not going to have the fuel to make the media car go further and faster. So that's the first thing. Is it's a really good framework to look at. Then everything from that angle: what internal skills do we have? You know, do we just have creatives? Do we have any really brilliant administrators or digital media staff? That'll be the first thing, which then leads us into the digital opportunity for ministries. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about some trends and stats that we see online. So I'm just looking at my notes here. So
Ian, can I jump in real quick?
yeah.
I just wanted to just emphasize something Ian said just now. And this is the reality of what we're finding with many ministries. They are focusing everything on all of their resources on producing content, buying equipment, building studios, filming. So you have all this content, but you have no way to deliver it. And they spend a fortune producing content, but then they can't get anybody to watch it because they don't spend any money on distribution or promotion. So, all of us can go on the internet right now and put a video on, and that could potentially reach the whole world, right? But the only way you're going to get the people to watch it is somehow promote it. So, it's like spending all your money in buying a big expensive Rolls Royce, but you don't have any fuel to put in it. I mean, that's one analogy. But I just wanted to emphasize that don't get caught in that trap of producing content. And remember this as well, that some of our favorite TV shows that we watch, we're watching reruns and reruns and reruns and reruns. The same great show over and over and over again. And there are people out there that are watching it for the first time, even though it may have ran 100 times. So don't get nervous that you always have to be having new content. Remember, one piece of anointing content can last a lifetime. So go ahead, Ian.
Thanks. So I'm just going to share some trends. I'm not going to extrapolate ideas from them. I'm just going to say things that are true of social media, video on demand, and the OTT platforms like the streaming services, just to say how much the landscapes has shifted even in the last year from broadcast to the social media and digital environment. So there are now on the social media platforms over 4.9 billion active users globally, and the average daily use, so this is average, that's including all of us oldies and all the young people, is 2.5 hours a day. So people are consuming 2.5 hours of content on their day, usually on their mobile phone. The thing that is dominating user attention is short form content. So that's Instagram Reels, TikToks, YouTube Shorts, because we all love to put a 45-minute preach online, right? The 71% of users discovering new content do that through social platforms rather than through search engines. So people aren't using Google search like they used to anymore. And increasingly in the last 6 months, people are using AI search. So they're using AI, ChatGPT, Google AI to find their content. So they're not even using search engines at all. So I think the implication of this is where people may have put content on a Christian platform like God TV on broadcast, you were just competing with 56 other ministries that had airtime. But now your ministry is competing with everything in somebody's feed. So people doing Forrest Frank's new dance, which is really cool. If you've all seen it, your church is all doing it. I'm doing it. But you're also competing with, their favorite sport, their favorite food, uh, their favorite political commentator. And so it's a noisy marketplace. Video on demand, some stats and facts about this. So 91% of the US adults access VOD regularly, and binge watching has become normal. So people aren't watching TV anymore, they're watching VOD streaming services, and they're watching many hours of content in one go. I know that ministries, you have huge archives of events, like conferences and sermons and things like that you've created. And I think these are key things that you can turn into on-demand products. So, for example, you don't need to go film a load of new stuff. You've probably got it in your library, and you can probably repackage it to create a really interesting video on demand section, whether you give that to us, whether you give that to another provider. Again, just to emphasize, you probably have got more content than you think. It probably just needs repackaging into a way that it can sit on to a streaming service. And then another thing that I like to stress is content does not need to be live. So for it to be life changing, it needs to be accessible and relevant. So people love to do a live event. They want to put it live online. But my experience would be we go live 3 times a week on our Facebook, for example, and it will get a couple of thousand views. By the end of the week, it's got hundreds of thousands of views, but they didn't watch it when it was live. They watched it over that week. And then it continues to gather views for all time as it sits on those platforms. So again, I wouldn't worry about everything having to be live and in the moment and right now and right then. Even your church services, it might be wise if you're a pastor that likes to say funny things that gets misconstrued, in media, that you might want to edit things. You might want to have that stopgap in place, because online somebody is going to clip you and things like that. So again, I stress you do not need to be live to have impact. And actually, it's a good safeguard for you to protect, your brand and your livelihood and your ministry and all the good work you've done for God over saying something silly that someone's going to clip online because you were live. And then the third part is the OTT platforms like Netflix, Amazon, YouTube. So it's just for me why it's relevant to us. It's just changed how people expect to engage with our content as ministries. It's raised the bar for the quality and the type of experience that people expect. So people expect to come to God TV and see an app that is got a great user journey, is functional, looks good, and works like Netflix, because Netflix have told people what that user operation looks like. You click, you swipe, you expect to preview, etc. If you try and rewrite that user journey to work differently, it just crashes engagement and crashes the user journey because people almost aren't willing to learn to use an app differently. And so really we need to replicate that user journey for people to continue to engage with Christian media. So that I just wanted to give an overview of the digital opportunity. So you can see people are using devices and digital media more than traditional media at this point by a long, long way. And there's many hours and many users that we can reach out there. I know a lot of you already know this, but I just wanted to really emphasize it of how important it is that we're in media and using media. And now I'd just like to give you like a framework of how we look at our own branding and our own digital media, and maybe how you can leverage that for your ministry. I really do believe before you use external platforms and Christian platforms, you should be doing your own thing internally, because you have to start to build a brand and build a presence and build a workflow and build a team before you engage with like a God TV, for example. Or we can do it with you. We like help you down that passage, but that's a big process to then start dumping. If we started to pour hundreds of thousands of views onto your content and it isn't good, it's just not going to do well. It's going to make you look bad. Like God TV amplifies your reach. It doesn't make what you've done good. So if it isn't good and the user experience isn't good, pouring huge amounts of traffic onto something is a mistake. And we would always try and tell somebody that with love and kindness. And we would love to help people build good user experience, as well as make sure that their content is achieving what you want it to achieve. So in our digital media team, we say you can't buy a media campaign, you have to build it. And what we mean by that is there's no amount of money that you can spend on day one to fix a bad marketing campaign, and it builds over time. So just like on broadcast, you can't reach 1 million people and then go, why is nobody calling me up? Because they've only known you for a day. That's why. So it doesn't matter how far or how big your reach is, it takes time. And I want you all to be okay with that. It's okay for your reach to grow and for your return to grow. And it takes some investment up front. I think it takes 12 months to engage a brand new audience who's never known you before, because you'll have a warm audience, which is people who know who you are, and perhaps that's your congregants, and perhaps that's people that are already engaging in your media because you may already have some good exposure. But if you are brand new, cold, you need to give it time. And that's what I mean by we build a campaign, we build it over time. And then we work in 4 areas. So attract, engage, nurture, and convert. So they're the 4 stages. I'll say those again in case you're writing them down. So that, and I can send you these notes afterwards. So attract, engage, nurture, convert. And attract, I think you should be leveraging Meta, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram Reels. And I think this is all the short form content that we talked about. You're not trying to just post a 45-minute program straight into YouTube, straight onto Meta. Nobody's going to watch all of it. Average view time for us on socials is about between 6 and 9 minutes, depending on the platform. So sure, we get people watch 30-minute programs, but we don't put any of our 30-minute or 60-minute programs straight onto social. Just doesn't work. And again, you're trying to attract audience at this point. I would, like I said, to do this, I would repurpose your sermons, your testimonies, and I would turn them all into short form content. So you could get so much content from one sermon. So I'll give you an example. You could get 10 clips from, like one-liners or, just interesting 5-minute part of the sermon. You can then turn those 10 clips, you could probably do 10 edits of them by using different colored text, by using slightly different edits, by highlighting the intro and outro of it differently. and then you've then got 100 pieces of content if you edit each one in 10 different ways, and that's just from one sermon. And then you can engage people on the platforms differently. So Meta punishes you for putting duplicate content, and TikTok doesn't. So again, like a little tip is go A/B test content on TikTok, because it won't punish you and the algorithm, it'll like that you're doing that. And then whichever one performs best on TikTok, post that on Facebook. So that's just a quick tip of like how you can utilize the different platforms. So the first thing is just to attract people with short form content. The next part, we're starting to build an audience. We're starting to build an audience in social. We're gathering followers and subscribers on YouTube, and we're starting to build an audience. But they don't really like know you. They don't trust you. That they do have some level of discernment. They've got all this other noise. So then we need to start to engage people. So it's really key that you have some funnels to drive people off of social media. It's really hard to engage people on a one-to-one basis in social media. So you can have what social media calls engagement, which is comments, likes, subscribes, but they're really low value, and it tends to be the point of interest that as ministries, it's the thing we talk about. Oh, I've got 10 million subscribers. I've got 10 million followers on Meta. My comment would be, who cares? Like, they're just vanity stats. That isn't going to drive success. What we have to do is get those users from the social media platforms engaging with your ministry, and therefore you need to have some funnels that are click funnels that get data from those people. So email addresses, competitions, giveaways, things like this. Because what we need to do is then to move into engagement, really, you have to have campaigns where you're talking to people on a one-to-one basis. Now, there's loads of automation that you can use to do this. You don't actually have to sit there writing DMs and emails and things like that. But for example, there's a huge difference between someone commenting on Facebook and then you commenting underneath and having a little bit of discussion, but you sliding in their DMs with a click funnel offering them something free based on what they've said, based on the interest area, based on the video that they're looking at, and then getting their actual contact details so that you can email them, you can invite them to an event, you can invite them to church, you can start to have one-to-one conversations. And like it's just so easy to do this. So you offer free resources, and again, you've all probably created loads of these. So it's like devotionals, prayer guides, premium content, teaching series, and again, I'm just sure, like looking at this group of people, I know that you teach this day in, day out. So I know that you've got those resources. They just need packaging in a nice way and offering for free to capture that data. And then the key is like responding in real time. So if it's happening way after someone's commented, or way after someone's watched a video, it's not going to be effective. So that the faster that you start to engage with that audience online, the more you're going to build your database and build your viewership, and be able to take them on a route where you convert. So that the next thing is you then have to nurture those contacts. Things that we use for this are like email sequences, nurture campaigns. You've probably all got these, but we think you have to send on average 6 emails now for somebody to respond. So it's a lot. And we're dropping people into like 1 a week. We're not sending them every day. Please don't do that. That used to work. Now it doesn't, because everybody send them every day and it's too much, and you just go into spam and people delete the email. Make sure they're super high value if you do a nurture campaign. and make sure that it's relevant to how you captured that contact. Also, other places where you can nurture people is WhatsApp groups. That's huge in Europe. I don't know about the US, and other like engagement groups, whatever technology you use, but like a WhatsApp group and SMS updates as well. They're still really impactful. If you can get people's phone numbers and get them to join groups. Another part of nurturing is then creating that personal content that people can engage with. That this is where I think live is impactful, right? So where live isn't impactful is in the attract stage, right? This is where I think we got it wrong for a long time. We thought we had to be live to attract new people, and it's the opposite. Once we've got people in a campaign, then you can do a live teaching once a week that they're only getting in media, so it's exclusive. They can't get it anywhere else. You've engaged them. They've maybe had some nurture emails. They're going through that nurture process. They're like, hey, I really like Mark. I really like Kyle. I really like Sam. And now I'm going to rock up to his teaching every Wednesday online because he's speaking to my heart right now. He's speaking straight from God to me. And so this is where live is really brilliant. I wouldn't do it publicly. I would do it privately. Again, it establishes that sense of exclusivity and that it's a safe place and that they can ask questions. So again, I wouldn't be posting it live everywhere. And also, you can say different things when it's private versus live. And then basically, you're just trying to funnel them towards more meaningful participation in what you're doing. So prayer, conference and events, turning up to church, and even giving at this point. So you can sort of encourage them to engage in some small acts of philanthropic activity that you're doing. I wouldn't be asking for tithing at this point. I'd just be saying, hey, you're into, this cause, so are we, and would you like to give again? Because giving is a great sign of engagement and deep relationship, actually. And then we move into convert. Now, depends what you're trying to achieve, whether you're trying to grow the church, whether you're trying to grow donors, whether you're trying to, take people into discipleship programs, whether you're trying to fulfill the Great Commission, whether you're trying to build water wells. There's a plethora of things that you might want to do and get people to engage in, whether that's volunteer, donor, become a leader. There's lots of funnels here. And so I don't just want to talk about money. And so when you convert, it's time to take people from that passive viewer and invite them to take action. And this is where you will really start to shake down who's deeply engaged, and so you have to invite them to take an action. And online that can look like take a course that you might have to pay for. It might look like come and do a volunteering course with us. It might look like join this leadership conference. But it's the time to take action, or it might be give to what we're doing. My caveat to that is we're trying, we still do it sometimes because people are people, but we're trying never to talk about what we're doing, and we're now trying to talk about what the user is doing with us. So we try and make them the superstar of their giving, not us. So it's really important, because ultimately it is, we can't do what we do without their generosity. So we have to say, it's not we did this, it's you did this. And it's the same in the ask. You have to say, would you like to do this with us? Not we're doing this, can you give to it? And I say, I think you probably all know this, but it's just a good reminder that our congregations and our supporters and our viewers online, even that love us, we do it because of them, for them, and it's them that's doing it. We're just the conduit. And then this is the key thing where you can get a bit clever in the digital media area is because you've been through these stages and you've built an audience and you can see the people who have taken action because there'll be digital markers. So you'll have seen them from first view, first comment, first click through that funnel, is you can then start to retrack. Retrack is super important. So you need to be tracking people's IPs, where they're spending time, and then spending, I would say, conservatively 50% of your media budget on retracking. So if you're going to spend money on ads to attract new people, the temptation is to spend it all there, or 90% of it there, and then 10% on retracking, because it feels like you're retracking an audience that you already know. So I think logically, I would make that conclusion that I wouldn't want to spend loads of money on people I already know. You know, they've already come to a conference, they're already watching your stuff. But if you remember what I said at the front end of this conversation, people are using social media like their search engines. 71% of people. So they're not going on Google. They're being told what to go watch again on social media. So we have this at God TV on a huge scale. We know that somebody will come to the VOD, watch 8 times, 12 times, watch full series, but they don't come back to the app unless we remind them on social media, hey, we've got this new thing on the app. Now they use the app, they've downloaded the app, they're highly engaged, but they're still getting their content suggestions on social media. So retracking is a huge part of what you do because of how people navigate and use the web. Now, this might make sense to some of you that get stuck in scrolling, you know, cycles and going through Instagram or Facebook or whatever your social media of choice is. Or you might not because you just don't use these platforms. But the stats all say that people, even when they're engaged in an app, a VOD, a ministry, they need to be reminded to go back there through retracking. So it doesn't feel logical to spend your marketing spend on people you already know, but actually that's what's going to keep people coming back, keep people engaged, keep people giving. So it's important to spend a good portion of your budget on retargeting to bring people back to your message and to keep them engaged. So yeah, attract, engage, nurture, convert. That's the simplest way that I can explain what we try to do at God TV for our own content and for our partners' content. There's lots of nuance in there, and I think it's probably a good time to ask some questions. I can talk a bit about
Ian, let me jump in. Let me jump in, Ian, before just real quick. Just real quick. I want you to give an example of this. What we did, ladies and gentlemen, we worked with a lady in England, for example. She had no ministry exposure. She was never on media. Nobody ever really knew about her. And we used our strategy, and she came on board, and she quickly rose to number one on our platform. Now, her objective was targeted to women, and she wanted to. Her end result was that she wanted subscribers to subscribe to her ladies mentoring program. So she had a strategy, she had the teaching, she had content. At the end of the day, she wanted subscribers. And Ian, I want you to kind of give them a little overview of where we started with her and then where we ended with her as far as, and her subscribers were paying. So it was very, very, very fruitful for her. And just give them a little overview of what we actually offer for clients in the event that somebody may be interested. But I just wanted to say as well this, when Ian was talking about smaller bites of content, you know, it depends on obviously the habits of the person. But for example, I know in my own case, I'm 62, but I know that prefer to watch content in smaller bites. It's just, even for my attentions, I just can't. But I'm a restless guy. It's even hard for me at church, Bishop. I'm there restless at church. You know, it's hard for me just to even to stay seated. And I don't have ADD or ADHD, but I'm just restless. So anyway, I like smaller chunks. So for example, here's a campaign. Let's say you have a sermon on Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. Well, let's just say the way, truth, and life. Well, that's a huge package right there, but let's just go with the way. So you have a message on the way as part of the way, truth, and life. And you break that into chunks. You could preach that at your church, or you could preach an hour or 2 hours of it, but then you break it down into a campaign of the way, and you ask questions like, where are you going? Do you know where you're going? That's a question. Friend, do you know where you're going? And then you go into a little 5 minute spiel on where you're going. Another one would be, do you know the way? I mean, I wanted to have a t-shirt campaign and just have our guys walking around. Do you know where you're going? Do you know the way? And then they stop and go, well, what are you talking about? Well, I'm glad you asked. Do you know the way? Well, what way? Where? Who are you following? Do you need directions? So those are kind of like, people are looking for answers. People are searching the internet. People are depressed. They're down. They're hurting. They're anxious. When things happen, when world affairs happen, these searches get bigger and bigger, and people are more desperate, and they want to know about God. They want to know about the supernatural. They want to know about things, but they can't take a sermon. They need it in chunks. And that's how to engage them and to tease them and to whet their appetite and then give them more and more and more. So I guess that's what we were talking about with smaller chunks. And then the other thing is, as Ian was saying, as we tell our clients, if you have a restaurant, if you use the analogy of a restaurant, if you have a restaurant that's a steakhouse, well, then you're not going to send your content to vegetarians. You want to make sure that you reach meat eaters, right? Or the other way around. If you are a vegetarian restaurant, you want to find people. So that's what we do. We find for you the eyeballs that you need, the people that you want. If you have a women's ministry, there's no need to go to men as much. If your focus is on Israel, then we will send your content to Israel loving people. You know, so it depends on what your message is, and that's where you send your message. So here at God TV, even with all of our messaging that we have, we don't send our messaging to everybody like a shotgun approach. We strategically know who's watching. We know who our people are. We know your male, your female, your age, your likes, your dislikes. We know what you're interested in. And we don't want to waste your time. Ian and I were driving to church yesterday, researching a church that has contacted us about some help. And we were looking at their reviews. I didn't even know, Bishop, that I guess this particular church had Google reviews or some kind of reviews, and they were either 5-star or 1-star. There was no in between. And this one person said, the spam called me every day for 1 year. It's like, what were they thinking? So anyway, Ian, if you could give us a little details on that lady, and then actually what we offer, and then you can take some questions.
Yeah, okay. You've gone down my notes. I've got that case study in there 100%.
Okay.
Let me. I think as I talk, it can feel overwhelming, right? I go, oh, I've got all this stuff to do, and this is why I say it's like a journey. And the thing I liken it to, what is like when we build a new campus, we don't expect to open a building, have a pastor, have a youth team. We don't expect it to be brilliant day one, have everything in place. There is an order to this, so you can do it off in small bites and go through a process from having no digital media to having like this new digital campus. But it just requires that amount of commitment and that way of thinking. And if you were going to do a new campus, you would say, right, this is a 5-year project. We're going to give it X amount of budget. and we're going to have a lead pastor, we're going to have a worship leader, we're going to have a kids pastor. They're not all going to come at the same time. We're going to send some families with it, and that's the same in digital. I think as a ministry, we can't just be like, oh, it's this thing we kind of do. You're either doing it or you're not. So like either do it really well or don't do it at all, and treat it like a new campus. So hire a digital pastor, right? Like do the same process, put the same amount of budget to it, and don't go do another new campus at the same time. This is your new campus. Digital is your new campus. And I say that because it just makes it a bit more accessible in that it's not overwhelming to think, gosh, I've got to do my website, I've got to understand SEO, and I've got to understand the difference between organic and paid traffic, and I've got to understand engagement. You learn all that just by going down the road and committing to it and treating it like a new campus. I just wanted to say that because even I'm thinking, wow, this is a lot for a ministry to do day one. But honestly, we can just go for it together. I think a good case study would be Liz Wright. So she was relatively unknown globally. Has a local ministry in the United Kingdom. Was a really good test case for us because, to go back towards analogy, she didn't have a very good menu. She had a confusing menu, and she wasn't clear like who she was and what she was trying to achieve. But she certainly loved God and had a product at the end of it. So we worked with Liz for 2 years. Year one, she was on broadcast. And year two, she started digital and broadcast with us. And the key thing to say with Liz is she participated fully 110% in the process. So she wanted to have a digital campus rather than a physical campus. And she knew that her end goal was what she wanted to mentor women, especially those who felt they wanted to go deeper with Jesus. And she appeals to a lot of women who have been through broken relationships. So she knew what God had called her to do. And she was really clear that she wanted to have a group of women that she ministered to weekly, and wanted to grow that. So that was really helpful because we could really get rid of a lot of the noise for her and really help her refine her brand and tell her what she needed to achieve in terms of content and both, on her website, but also in her funnels and the video things that she was producing. So it was a journey. And year one, I would say our content wasn't very good, and it got better and better over time. And we landed on a format that really worked for her. You'll see it's quite unique if you go and watch what she does. It's almost one shot, piece to camera, very quiet, very intimate, very slow, and she ministers in a specific way. So that was one thing. We found her style and her brand and what engaged people. But then once we got that, it was like, okay, we're attracting a new audience, but how do we engage people and drive people through that? And that was a process over 12 months. Now, she was super successful she's got over 2,000 people in her monthly paid mentoring group, right? I think she charges $75. So you can do the maths. It's pretty successful. You don't need that many people to have a very good recurring income. And it sustains her ministry, and it pays for all sorts of other things she's able to do, like conferences and events. And, so she's now built a whole bunch of in-person things she does with this group as well. But she's got a global group and she ministers them, and it continues to grow. But essentially, we had to go and find the people that were really in the need she was speaking to. So I would say,
Ian, that's $75 a month or a year?
A month.
Just wanted to make that clear.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So we had to understand the need that she was speaking to, and so did she. So, it wasn't all plain sailing, because part of digital marketing is you've got the human side where you're figuring out, are these the right people? Like, what's the value of this click, right? I'm going to talk about it like that. So you can engage somebody, and you could get. I'll give you an example that happened with Liz. She was getting huge engagement from the Middle East at one point, but then strangely, what went up was also the marriage proposals. So the algorithm had gone. Oh, there's this pretty woman ministering, and it's getting lots of clicks, and the algorithm won't distinguish between a quality of a click or an engagement. It's just going, oh, this must be your kind of people, so I'm going to show it to more people like that. And so this is where the work comes in is making sure that you tell the algorithm, no, don't go do that. That's not what we're looking for, and giving it as much information as possible, like access to your database. Sounds scary, but it's just normal activity. So sharing your database with Meta, you should all do it. All it's going to do is help it see who is your audience and who can it go do lookalikes. And this is why I say you should do an element of it yourself first, so that you can build an audience that you like, and then you should co-brand with people like God TV. Because what we did for Liz is you get a bit stuck in the algorithm, because the algorithm isn't trying to expand your reach weirdly. It's always trying to narrow it. So it's trying to do lookalike. It's trying to go, Ward likes to watch Mark. So I'm going to find more people exactly like Mark. They are in this area, they're in this locality, they watch these kind of things online. But in reality, Ward might also appeal to Danielle and Marcel, right? But it's just not going to find Danielle and Marcel because they live in a different place, they watch different content, they're interested in different things, because you can't target on Christian anymore, right? So this is part of the challenge, is you've got to then, once the algorithm gets too narrow for you, you've got to start to use other people's audiences. So that's like working with each other, doing cross promotion, putting it on God TV. So I say you should always start with your own internal digital media work and spend, and then you use a big platform that should pour. Like, I see God TV as an accelerator in that process. So it's like, okay, I've got something, it's working, it's going well, I want to pour fuel on that now. And that was the case with Liz. And to be fair, she just did everything we asked. So the other thing is, she was good to work with. This is the other thing we found with ministries. Senior leadership, really passionate about it, really want to do it, can see the value, understand we've got the skills, sign the deal, pay the money. Teams, it's not their only thing. They think they're already doing it themselves, don't understand the vision hasn't been shared down, and then they're slow. And you send an email, they only work once a week, so we get, and it goes on and on and on, and you guys are paying for something. So it's really important that you do have that team and you do have that ambition. And Liz was just great with that. So she would share, she would go live on our Facebook and on our what I call owned platforms. So God TV owns a bunch of brands beyond God TV, like Blessed Women. We own 16 other brands that are all organic traffic. So we put Liz in like the Blessed Women feed, and she would go live there once a week. That drove people to her content. We would do click campaigns, paid click campaigns, drive people to her content, and then retrack the people that are actually watching the content. Again, the mistake you can make is do clicks straight through to a conversion funnel and then go, oh, it's not working. So our top level campaign was all about Liz's content. And then we would go, okay, this person's watched 4 times and watches on average for more than 8 minutes. Right, we're going to retrack everybody that follows those rules, and we're going to retrack them real hard with more of Liz's content. And then after 3 months, then we started pushing them in, those people, into conversion funnels. So again, it's about having patience before you start asking people, because a donation is quite a big ask, really. Getting something for free, not a big ask. Asking for to come to an event or for money, it's quite far down the journey. And then the big thing is she just had the patience of when she wanted to give up. She's like, this is expensive, I'm not seeing the return, And we're like, Liz, look at how many people are viewing your things. Your website's off the charts. You know, we started to have that conversation where we convinced to look, stick at it. And I'm convinced the people that succeed in digital media, the people that don't give up, that's it. And you don't know when that wave's going to come. It could be 6 months, 12 months, 18 months. Usually within 18 months, it starts to convert. But you just can't give up once you start, because you're building audience all the time. And all those views, they add up to something in the end. If you just disappear out of everybody's life because you're not seeing some metric that is made up, um, then yeah, it's not going to work. And that's a really good thing we should talk about, Ward, is conversion. The reality of it is, I think if you ask Liz now, she would say all the money she spent on digital media was worth it, right? But for the first 12 months, I think she was thinking of quitting nearly every week, right? Because she's got in her mind, or a dollar in, a dollar out, or a dollar in, $2 out. Those aren't the metrics, because if you could get that, every billionaire on the planet would just be doing this. And they don't. They go and invest in the stock market where they're getting 8%, right? So in reality, digital marketing is a dollar in, nothing back for quite a long time. And then you start to see the lifetime value of those regular donors make complete sense. But that just takes time, and you have to have the upfront investment to get there. And again, you know that some of what you're doing is also missional, and that's the brilliant thing about it. So you are going to touch people's lives that you don't even know about through what you're sharing and the messages that you share, and you're gonna meet them in heaven, right? So we're not here to convert everybody into a donor. Like, part of what we do is missional as well. So you want to reach more people with the good news of Jesus. So we have the best situation, because none of our marketing dollars are wasted, because we're putting Jesus in front of people every day. And so we go, okay, the conversion part, that was worth it. The bit that didn't convert, that was missional, so it was also worth it. And when we start to think like that, it gives us some staying power around the true cost and investment of building a brand new audience digitally, and starting to bring them into our ministries and starting to disciple them and take care of them.
I think that's a great way to pause, Ian. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the bottom line for all of us on this call today, and we know that's your heart as well. It's kingdom work. It's not digital media to make money. It's digital media to share the good news of the gospel, and that's always the objective. And we know, Ian, as well, especially being believers and Christians following the word, that some will plant, some will water, and others will reap. And we also know that doing God's business is labor intensive. So I guess the bottom line, ladies and gentlemen, is to encourage you that whenever you begin your media campaign, if you ever decide to really do it purposefully, it's toiling. It's it's not all fun and games. It's not all a bed of roses. It's a lot of toiling, a lot of hard toiling. But at the end of the day, if you stick with it, and with God's help, and with His content that He gives you, He will use it to reach the world. So, Bishop, I think it's maybe a time to pause, to see where we go from here. If you have any questions, if there's anything.
Yeah,
Obviously, at any time, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you that want to have a longer conversation or more in depth about how we can help your particular ministry, it's just a matter of contacting us, and we'll do that. But for the sake of everybody on this call today, how you want to take it from here, Bishop?
yeah. We'll open it up to pertinent questions. I do have a few questions, and I just want to make it clear to everyone that there's no exact template to this, so God TV will have to work with each individual, and they may even kick it back to you and say you're not ready yet, or you have to start from scratch. So everybody's at a different place. So I hope you all caught that. Some of you may be incredibly close to a breakthrough and you don't even know it, even with conversions. So, they're just giving you basic principles that are necessary for each person. Also, if someone wants to contact God TV team to possibly retain you guys, could you please put that in the chat room now?
Yeah,
Worst comes to worst,
yeah.
text me. But yeah, but please, yeah, the pertinent email or whatever. Um, but I'll start it off. I do have a question, probably a very simple question, but uh, Burger Shop has gotten in touch with me, and I'm going to try to meet somehow with you guys when I get back from overseas. Hopefully, you'll give me the special Bishop's discount. But anyway, that's a joke. But the I'm thinking of developing an app because I do a lot of large conferences everywhere, and I have pretty good website. It's okay. We also display a QR code to give people direct access to my books and my website when I speak. So, how important is it in this ever-changing world to have a good app that replicates a lot of the pertinent stuff that's on a website? Is it still something that we should consider if possible?
I'm not sure. It's a great question. So it's really interesting because we're on this journey with I don't know if you guys know Henry Seeley from Belonging and Co. So he was looking at white labeling our VOD because they have a lot of worship content, and they wanted to have a place where there was like an app that was just VOD for music, and there's no point in him going and recreating what we've already spent millions of dollars on. And then it gets with his team, and then you want this app ultimately then to service all areas of the ministry. So it becomes like this huge thing. And I said to him last week, I was like, how many people are really going to use this app, and how much do you want to spend on it? Because now what you've described is $1 million at least, development process that's going to take 12 months and a huge team of developers, and like we can do that for you, probably not in God TV, probably in one of our other vehicles, but is it really what you want? Because there are already apps out there that exist. And I would ask that question, is that where you want to invest a lot of money, or do you want to just go use something that already exists? Because I could probably suggest 20 apps that are good for ministries and churches and what have you. And then do you have the funds to uh, do user acquisition on that app? So for example, it costs us about $16 per user. So it takes about 1,000 people. For every 1,000 people, we get one download. We're trying to get millions of users on the app, right? So you scale that up. You do 1 million users. That's $16 million of user acquisition funds over 5 years or whatever. And like you're competing against like us in that marketplace to have an app. And I think the key, Bishop, is what is the user experience you're trying to achieve? Because perhaps we could do that with just a better website.
Okay, I understand that. Yeah, so I'm working with one of my dear friends and we're talking about that. And yeah, I'm just trying to go to another level of reach. And yeah, so just trying to understand where all this is coming from. So what you're saying is you could utilize a website effectively to scale your audience and engage people, even if you didn't have an app, because apps are numerous right now. And so you're in competition with a
It's
lot of
it,
apps. Is that what you're saying?
it's not that it's human. It's just it's a much bigger ask. And so if I give you the user journey that someone would experience, it'll make more sense. So you're on Facebook and Bishop, you see some of your content, and then you click on a link and it goes to an app that you haven't downloaded. It it'll open in a web app version anyway, right? And then it'll look terrible because it's a web app version of an app. so you have to have already downloaded it if you're going to link to it. So you never link to an app anyway, because the user experience is junk when you do that, and you just have loads of drop off. And then if you have an app, it's because you want to have a really highly engaged audience. So maybe, it's like a place where they can go and it's got all your stuff. But like I said, you could just choose another platform. So I'm not saying don't have an app. I'm just saying don't go pay to develop something that already exists. There are secular platforms that you can use where you can build private audiences that cost you, a very small monthly fee, and you can then get into the exciting bit, which is content creation, audience acquisition, and conversion. Otherwise, you're going to get stuck right at this developer stage, and I just don't think it's a good place for ministries to be, because frankly, unless you've got some millionaires in your pocket, what you're going to develop isn't going to be as good as what Silicon Valley are developing. Just isn't.
Okay, no, that makes a lot of sense. It depends on how much the investment is as well. Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to open it up. And again, please, everyone, if you're ready to retain God TV or you just want to have a conversation with them, make sure you take down their contact info. So any questions? Anybody, any comments, questions? Mark
Yeah.
Estes.
Yeah. First and foremost, thank you guys for your time and for all this information. You really honed in on something that's significant. Maybe I want you to expand a little bit. You talked about the engage, nurture, convert, and you attract, engage, nurture, and convert. And you honed in on one area very shortly, which I believe is significant when we look at the tectonic shifts that are happening today in culture. And that's the nurture part. We're good at pushing information, but the engagement is what builds loyal client base, right? So our company works very significantly in this area. And, our technology allows us to have this one-on-one automated conversations with people using texting, which also could, in an international front, work on the WhatsApp, and as the bishop was asking about the app, I'm just wondering, outside of what we're doing and finding technology, if there's something broader out there in your platform or in your experience that allows this one-on-one texting conversation. We know that 92% of people will text back if you text them within 10 minutes of their engagement. They want to talk when they want to talk. And so an app or even a website really doesn't bring that true engagement or nurturing at the level that we could. And so I'm just wondering, in that space, we've built automated funnels that allow immediate texting and stuff like that. Is there something that you guys are using that you would know of that could really help serve all of us on this call in a broader sense?
Yeah, I can share the technologies, but because we're quite big, really, like in terms of our processes, they might be overkill, but I will share them. But thanks, Mark. I think what you say is key. Nothing replaces a text message. The two most frustrating things is we've got all this technology, and still the two best pieces of engagement tools we've got at God TV are a letter that we send in the post and a text message, right? Which seem so old school, but yet they're like you said, everybody responds to a text message. I would say that what we've got big systems, so we use Salesforce as our center of truth, which is a CRM, and then built on top of them, we've got a marketing system called Pardot, which is actually Salesforce have just bought them, and that's like a marketing tool that then you can build logic funnels within it. So it's called Pardot, and then you can build unique marketing journeys, and then we slide tools into that. So within that marketing, you can put they have like a WhatsApp widget that then you can say send this text message if the reply is this, and then we can now add different tools like ChatGPT and stuff like that, different AI models to make them personalized and have conversations. But the thing that we've started doing and we've started working on is working on prompt PHP prompt platforms. Now, for people who don't know what that is it's like a programmer platform. So it's like if you're a developer, you would use some kind of PHP platform, but you used to have to write in code. Well, now you don't have to write in code. You can just say, I want this. Can you do that? Make it do this. So you can use prompts to write code. And we use a thing called N8N. And we've started to build automations in N8N, which then you add basically AI operators and AI agents and tools to it. And it can pretty much do anything. So you can do text message journeys. You can do email journeys. You can do everything out of that. And then we started plugging that back into the marketing engine because it just makes what we do more impactful. I wouldn't say we're good at that. We've just started doing that. But I think the weird thing is with N8N, you can watch a couple of YouTube videos and start writing automations. It's incredible. Now, N8N is not the only prompt PHP platform, but and it's not my skill set. And someone 2 layers down from me is doing that. But I know that we keep joking our next hire is going to be an AI head of AI or something because it's moving so quickly that, like I said, people are searching not even on Google anymore. Google's losing its monopoly on search. SEO is going to be a thing of the past. So yeah, we're all going to just, and I don't know what the future of that's going to be, but certainly speaking to your question, Mark, about automation, there's loads of platforms out there for it. That's what we use. They might be a little complex for ministry, but perhaps people should speak to you, Mark, if you've got a great text message things. It sounds like I should be as well. So thanks for the question.
Yeah, I and I won't, dominate the conversation, but 5.5 billion texts will be sent in America today alone, 2 trillion each year. Just America, 5.5 billion. And 93% of those people will actually share their deepest, darkest secrets, hurts, hangups, habits with a stranger, only 13% face to face. So when it comes to engagement and nurturing and building out that base, that's where it's so critical is that we can get this new component in our engage nurture component, we'll truly see that true conversion. So I appreciate that. That's, if there's anything we can find even at an elementary level, that serves churches like that would really help to build that, attract, engage, nurture, convert.
Yeah. It makes me think that the key thing is getting data from people. So we remove data capture because it creates a block because, you'll see audience drop off the minute you ask for a phone number or an email. But then the sort of sad thing about that is, again, it's just about if you don't get the data, you can't take somebody on a journey. And we've just got to decide at some point, are we prepared to lose some of that vanity number to get better engagement? So maybe I get less clicks, and maybe it's just one of the conversations you've got to have internally and decide where you want to put that blocker and where you want people to drop out of the journey. But you do have to capture that data. Thanks, Mark.
Question on that, Ian. Isn't it better to offer something of value to get data than just ask for it?
Yeah, I would say there's a step before that. So nobody's searching like, Joseph Mattera online. Like there is some bishop, I'm not downplaying him saying, but there's not millions of search for Joseph Mattera every day. But people are searching needs-based questions all the time. Like the search traffic on that is huge, whether that's how do I deal with savings? It's their financial questions. How, I'm in debt. What do I do? I've just lost my parent, child, whatever. People are looking for services around need. So you have to establish what their need is before you then communicate. Like, do you want this thing? So again, the mistake is, I'm a bereavement counsellor and I'm just going to say to everybody I meet, do you want this service? That doesn't work. If you find out someone's need, so if their need is, they need help with their finances, then you can introduce that service to them and engage them in a journey to Jesus from that need that they've got. And then you can start asking for them details or give them a free thing. So you're right, adding value, Carl, is 100% the thing to do. But how do you add value until you know what someone's need is? And so you've got to have a variety of content that touches on the basic needs. What are they? Finance, death, relationship, spirituality. There's probably a couple more, but there's probably only 7 key topics. We have them, and they just have huge amounts of search traffic. So if you create content around those 7 areas, again, I'll find out what they are after the call. You're going to touch on most things that most people are struggling with and what their needs are.
All right, that's phenomenal. Anybody else? Comment, question?
Just for a little bit of clarity's sake, I think somebody put in the chat also to a list of services that you offer, but I want to ask it in just a different way. So if you decided to work with Joe XYZ or anybody on this call, I guess one of the major things that you could help do is repurpose content that we're already doing. So somebody does a sermon that Sunday, you could maybe take that, develop it into Instagram, YouTube, X posts, LinkedIn posts, to break it up into clips. Is that the kind of thing that you do, or do you actually help people with the kind of content that will be valuable online? What exactly, just in a real succinct way, what services do you offer? Are they so customized that you just want to hear our vision and you could lay out a path?
Yeah, so it is completely customized, and not all of the services exist. Like, they exist within the God TV umbrella, right? But we have different service providers that provide different parts of it because they're so different. But for example, just to be clear, God TV is a network. So in God TV, we offer a broadcast product, which is TV broadcast around the world. You know, you buy a time slot or advert or sponsorship, and that goes on the broadcast piece. And then we offer a digital audience acquisition, which is, you know, you've already got a website, you're doing this stuff, and then we plug in our organic and paid strategy to basically send traffic to your assets on God TV and your assets off of God TV, because we do that the low quality, high traffic part, and then we do the re-engagement part. So God TV is like a network and a traffic acquisition product, not like a marketing, a digital marketing organization. But within our organization, we then have these sub-organizations that offer that. So, for example, Carl, the production part, absolutely, we could provide very basic edit services for $1 per hour fee. It would just probably come from a different organization that's part of God TV. Because, again, our key was to build a network that services ministries and goes as fast as possible. So we outsourced our own production. We don't have a huge production team internally, but it's really our internal team. It's really just, we just have this other company that does it. So the service that we can provide is digital traffic acquisition and broadcast traffic acquisition, which is like you imagine. And I can send you all that from God TV. And then there are other services that, because what we like to do is we like to partner with ministries that want to go on this journey for a long time. So we've started being quite discerning, as in, do you want to put 3 to 5 years into it? Do you have the budget? Do you have the vision? Is this definitely what you want to do? Is God in it? Great, then we'll work together. And then it's like with Belonging and Co, building an app isn't our core product offering, but we still are doing that with somebody because we're already developing an app internally. So therefore we've got developers, and it was just a great partnership so that we're not both paying loads of money. We're able to come together as Christians and do it together. So for us, that's a long way of saying the partnership matters more than what the work is. if you believe we're the right people and we believe you're the right people, and we've got a great relationship, then the services actually end up expanding, because we will build an app together, or we will shoot content together, or we will let you go live on our Facebook, because for us it's all about relationship and reaching Jesus. So as long as we align on that and we want to work together and it's for the long term, you know, and we can financially agree that we're going to invest equitably together within those projects, then we will do them, because we have these skills in house.
Hey, Bish, can I say something from Barbados?
Yes, of course.
Hey, I think this is great. What I'm thinking is that we can use in the Caribbean, among there like how many islands? I don't know, probably 10, 11 islands that I have some influence over, including my own. There's this thing called CBC, which is Caribbean Broadcasting Corporation. They have this thing called uh, MCTV or something like that. And I had my shows on there. They asked me to come and do content. What I'm thinking is that we could do in the local distribution of TV. We could get God TV to come on board. I know it was asked before, and they called me about it, and I said they should do it. But I'll go back to them and make it happen now. My wife is also the head of the private sector here, so she wrote a paper that I authored. To be honest, you know how that works, and we could get God TV on our TV station. I could get it on the Vincentians, the Guyanese, and I could also get it done on Jamaica, because I do pretty much a lot of live shows on Jamaica at this point. So I'd like to talk to God TV about us doing that so that the distribution audience includes more Caribbean people. And when we get those four nations on board, starting with Barbados, then we can get more content to the homes. It could come straight to the homes, it's a click away. And I've done this before with them. I've got Grace Baptist Church, which I preach at a lot in Knoxville, Tennessee. I've gotten their show on, so it's a constant. And so I can get God TV on these national broadcast networks through the government, right? So let us talk about that at some point. Someone, Bish, you could share my contact details with everyone. The Prime Minister and me, we meet often. I wrote her policies, which are very Christian based these days. And also, we can get, uh, uh, because the countries in the region are going through some crime cycles. Cindy, you know about what's happening in Trinidad, you know very well. And so we can get this as an alternative to be fit into the paradigm rating,
All right.
so that, yeah,
Patrick, why don't you just the contact information for God TV is on there. I
okay,
think put in the chat, so that's probably the best way to do it. That's
okay.
exciting the way you could open doors to the gospel and appreciate your heart and willingness. Uh,
Joseph,
yes, Rosanna, you have your hand up.
I have a question from Apostle Welly. He's looking at the map from God TV, but he says, although you cover 80% of the world, we don't see anything in South America. And is there a possibility, or is there already some place in South America where we can get God TV? We also have a web TV here, Hika TV, that is also available if they are interested in showing the programs from God TV in South America. We have the TV here in Brazil. So that's the question he has today. How are you going regarding South America?
It's a great question. And literally last night, I was asking that exact question to some of the big satellite providers over South America. So the answer is it's a process. It costs a lot of money, and we need to put together the right contacts and the right donors to make that happen. We would love to be in South America. We did a lot of work many years ago, and it just didn't come off. But last night, literally, We've got a text here with what the costs are to be on the satellites down there. So hopefully it's something that comes in the near future. Any relationships, any people locally that would love to be involved and help us, I'm sure it's something that we would love to do.
Well, you guys could get in touch with me. I have a lot of contacts in Brazil. Apostle Welly knows more people, of course. So whenever you guys are ready, reach out to me and I'll connect you with these guys. Okay.
Thank you, Bishop.
A massive, massive influence in Brazil. Massive. I'll be going there for 3 weeks starting in August, and they're giving me a tour. I'm probably speaking in 6 cities or more. So these guys have a lot of influence. So when you're ready, we'll definitely connect you.
I have a question. Would it need to be in English or a language channel?
Okay, waiting for the answer from Apostle Welly.
Yes, you could send the programs in English, and we have the translators here that can do all the subtitles and also translations whenever necessary.
Yeah, so
Or
it's not about.
Spanish. There's a lot of people that also understand Spanish in Brazil, although it's not our language, but we can also translate to Spanish to English from English.
Yeah, my question, there might have been some misunderstanding. It wasn't, can we translate it? Because that would be great. It would be a brilliant help. But is it, should we have an English channel or should we have a Spanish channel? Or that's my question: is where should we start?
Ian, if you want, text me your contact information in case it's needed. And I think
Yeah,
you know my cell phone.
I'll put my mobile number on the group.
Oh,
I'm fine with everybody to have it.
okay, great.
It's in the group chat. I also did my email up further up.
Okay, someone else is talking. I can't tell. Roseanne, I guess you're going to translate for Apostle Welly in a minute.
Yes, he was just saying that, of course, it would be brilliant if we could have programs done by God TV in Portuguese. But we also have programs that you can use that are done in Portuguese, because there's a lot of countries that are Portuguese speaking in your areas of coverage already. So he is making them available to God TV, all the programs we have here to you.
Praise God. Send my thanks and gratitude, please.
Bishop, I've got to run. I'll leave Ian on, but just before I go, any final thoughts or question for me personally before I drop?
Well, thank you again, Ward, for making your team available and investing in us. I know my personal agenda is making the right connections globally so that the gospel can go forth. That's my only agenda for this. So appreciate you guys, and hopefully the relationships developed at this table will continue to advance the kingdom, and perhaps even more collaboration with God TV, because we love
Amen.
what it's doing.
Amen.
So before we wrap it up, because we can't keep this going ad infinitum, we're supposed to end it in like 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Is there questions related to the strategy that was presented. All the other kind of questions regarding connections with God TV and other continents, you could just text them directly. But anybody have a question regarding what God TV offers to enhance your social media and your platforms and ministry? Any questions regarding that? Okay, well, it might be that we're finished.
Well,
Uh,
I do have one thought, Bishop, if I may ask before a word goes. What kind of budget? I know it might depend on the scale, but what kind of budget do you need to think about to have a long-term sustained digital outreach? Is that a um, is that an answerable question without you hearing the vision of someone, or is there a particular range that you would recommend?
I'm checking my pockets here now, Ian.
I can answer that a little bit because it is a piece of string, but
Did
it's
you
a
have to take your hat off? Did you have to take your hat off to
yeah,
answer that?
it's going to be a hot one. It's going to be a hot one. I think I think that I would ask a question back is what would you spend on a new campus, right? What you would rent? What would you spend on staff? The reality is you've got to do a lot of internal work, and infrastructure that's probably $10,000 a month for a while, and then you've got all the outward facing stuff. So based on my maths before, you're probably going to need $20,000 a month minimum to do campaigns, promos, have websites, host things, create content. Now, no doubt people do it for a lot less and they start in a smaller place. But if you're engaging organizations like God TV, we want to start at a $10,000 a month package, right? So just because the amount of work that it takes to set it up, so the teams that you get involved and the web pages and the consultation, you probably touch around 12 to 20 people in our organization through that process, and it's just a lot of work for you and for us. And then if you get to the end of that process and can't put any money into ad spend, it's just a waste of time because we've gone through that process, done the consultancy, built everything, and then they spend a couple of $100 on ad spend. You divide that by 30 days, it's just nothing per day, and so they don't see any traction. And we've learned you want to spend between $5,000 and $10,000 a month on ad spend to really make the paid side of it work. Now, obviously, the organic side, we could help set you up, give you some tools, tell you our findings, share our data with you, and you can go do organic, which is obviously what is the other side of it that needs a lot less money. But to really do the paid side, you need I would say, just on ad spend, $5,000 a month minimum.
And listen, we have friends that don't spend much money. They just play with it and they do a podcast and they have a little studio and they some of these successful YouTubers, I mean their whole life, that's what their life is, 24 hours a day making content and blah blah blah. But just if you're and the numbers that we're talking about are numbers for a serious digital media campaign or department. Like for example, here's a report for one of our clients that use our services. This was a report that was from last month or a month before. Anyway, it's the gross impressions that were achieved by the campaign was over 16 million. And of those impressions, 7 million nearly actually engaged. And of those, 500,000 clicked through it. And then another 21 or 22,000 actually went to the ministry's website. And then there was 288 minutes of viewing their content and 70,000 in unique plays and fourth in ranking and 196 countries viewed. So, and then 544 emails of sign up. So they're the type of results, you know, when we're talking about spending money. We're not just talking about having a social media presence, so if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think five thousand $5,000 gets you about 16 million top line views. You know, impressions, and will probably get you about 6 to 8 million views. And then it just waters down from there in terms of level of engagement.
So anyway, I gotta drop off, guys. Ian can stay with you for a few more minutes, but thank you, Bishop, for having us. Lord bless you guys, and we will talk soon.
Thank you very much, Ward. Appreciate
Thanks,
you.
Lord. Sorry, Mark. Mark's got his hand up.
Yeah, yeah. One other question. Obviously, all of us on this call, there's a local global calling on us. There's the local, we want to reach our area. Obviously, apostolic, we want to reach nations. A lot of what we're talking about is that global reach. With your services, again, for building actually the local church and bringing attraction to those local, campuses or to the building. Are you guys able to with the services really hone in to where it's not just the global reach, but let's just say, hey, we want to get the 15-mile drive range
Yeah,
from campuses and really target that for reach?
100%. And again, it comes down to the appetite for media, really, more broadly, and the will and the want to engage with God TV as that partner. Because the way we see that work really well is when we have someone, name any personality that does that, Mark Sharona or whoever, right? And uh, he's got a broadcast program once a week, so we're promoting that anyway on social media, and we're driving traffic to that as just part of his broadcast package. And then digitally, he goes, okay, I want a 50-mile drive range, 15-mile, whatever they decide. Then we pour all of our social media efforts and paid marketing and everything into that geographical location. But again, it's just about him being clear. That's like, what is his goal about doing it? Is it to grow his local church, or is it to convert people into a mentorship program? And I think the more funnels that you create, the more you dilute the outcome. You don't get 3 times the outcome. So if someone comes and says, I want to grow my local church, I also want to grow a digital global ministry, and I also want to do a mentoring funnel, I just go, we're not for you. Like you want to achieve everything all at once, and it's just going to break. So what is the thing that you feel really called to? What is God saying is next for you? Is it a global digital campus? Is it to grow the community that you've already got? And then we build strategy around that. And so we can help suggest what the production strategy should be. And again, like I said, we can participate. Our production company is called Marsden Partners, and we do a bunch of editing for people because it's scalable. So rather than hiring 1 editor, 2 editors, whatever, people would just use 4 hours of edit this week to do some shorts and promos, and then send us the sermon, all the sermons at the end of the month, and we do 2 days working on it, and we just work on an hourly basis to help ministries, because Marsden is a serious production company in its own right. We do lots of brand work for big brands, so it's not where we make money. So we just try and help ministries in that sense because we're using our spare capacity. So we love to do that, and try and make it cheaper than hiring, a bunch of staff and all the complication. So yeah, we have bespoke solutions for ministries that want to partner with us at depth. What we tried when we tried to be a service provider for all, it didn't work. So really, we maximum want to work with we currently work with 56 ministries really closely, and maybe we would take that to 100 max, and then we don't want anyone else on God TV at that point. If somebody drops off, we'll get somebody new on. But I think that's about giving our team and our reach and our size and our want to do really good work rather than just lots of work. because again, the thing we haven't said on this call is God TV doesn't have a profit motive because it's a charity. So God TV is 16 separate charities around the world. And so any money that comes in all goes out on distribution, on programming, on promotion, on digital ad spend. We never keep a penny. There's nothing left at the end of the year because we operate as a charity. So because we don't have that profit motive, we're not trying to be like $1 billion private capital in, we're not trying to grow for growing's sake. We've actually decided we want to be small, we want to be niche, we want to be really good at Christian media. We're moving towards a digital platform, and that's why we don't create our own OG programming. Ward cancelled his own program. We have no interest in being a personality in a ministry from that perspective. We absolutely want to be a platform and a service provider. And it's new for us. I mean, we've only been doing this approach for the last 7 years, and still nobody knows that that's how we think and that's who we are, because they still see the old God TV. But really, that's our future. It's what we feel called to. We still want to reach all the nations with the good news of Jesus through media. So the goal has not changed, but we just have decided it's not through our media, it's through your media. You're the ones that are anointed. You're the ones that are preaching. You're the ones with the doctorates, and that way we get to share Jesus in a diverse way with people from all cultures that can engage in content from Brazil, the USA, the UK, Norway, Sweden, all over the world. And if we try and make all that content, we die because it's just impossible. So I'm very much engaged with, we want to work with a small number of people really brilliantly, and we want them to love working with us, and we want to love working with them, and we want to be proud of the content that we put out there and curate a real small group of people that we go, yeah, this is it. And no doubt there's people on God TV that we love, that we think their season has ended, but until we get new clients, we're not going to move them off. So from my perspective, I'm very keen that we just find partners that we can honor, because this journey is tough as well, right? Like it's hard to create all the content. It's hard to work with people, and I just want to be with people that we can have tough conversations when it's not working and fix stuff, not people that are going to flake and jump out the boat the first time it gets hard. And I want to be able to love people and say, look, you're doing the right things. This audience is coming, because everybody without doubt has had doubt that this even works, right? And a lot of our role is just going, stay with it, please, you're nearly there, not because it keeps us getting paid either. Like I just don't care about the getting paid part. It's like, stop. But then if you've done 12 months and you've spent 120 grand, that investment is you just lose it all if you quit, right? So it's like, just keep going, and it does work out in the end. And all of my all of the data says that the people that are really, really successful on God TV are because they've stuck around, and the people that aren't left, and that was the determining factor. Because when you've got good relationship, you can figure out the product issues, you can figure out the marketing issues, you can figure out if the menu's right or not. But if you're not in that relationship, the other party just says it's your fault, and you go, oh, well, it's your fault, and then you just never get anything over the line. And so it's important that I can say to Bishop, hey, Bishop, I know you think your menu's great, and not in front of your team, but privately, like, we need to work on this, because you have had as many views as this person over here and no clicks, right? And that's not because we've done anything different. It's because your menu's not great. And I love you, and I don't want to hurt you in saying that. And it just does take deep relationship to have that truth and honesty with people. And I just think as Christians, that's what we're all about, right? So definitely zero interest in a transactional relationship, 100% up for reaching people with Jesus and figuring it out together over the next few years.
Wow. And I mean, you definitely hit a gold mine, and I feel your heart. You said one thing that I just want to add a quick question, if it's okay, Bishop, before you close it out.
Yeah.
You talked about the paid and the organic. in that engaged component, what percentage needs to be paid? What percentage needs to be organic? You did highlight a good band for the paid, but how much time does someone need to invest in the organic?
It's there's no such thing as a free, right? Organic sounds like this great free channel, right? But to do organic well, you probably need things like an SEO strategy. And to have an SEO strategy, you're going to have to engage an SEO specialist to understand that. You're also going to have to write lots of content. So you're probably going to have a writer that's writing um, high value, unique content. Now, there's lots of ways you could do that. You could point a camera at yourself for 2 minutes a day and have it transcribed and then have it added as a video and a text to a blog format on your website. That's going to help SEO, right? No doubt. But if you don't have a strategy around SEO, you're going to rank low for a million things. Whereas you need to pick 10 things you want to rank really highly for and really go after them and be clear why do we want to rank for this thing? And it can't be like, is God real? Like, you know, you're not going to win on that. There's people spending millions of pounds on is God real, right? So, you know, SEO is an organic traffic to me just means that you're paying people internally to create content and to understand the algorithm and what is ranking highly and how to do that. And SEO is totally blown out of proportion. It's about quality content. It's about backlinks. Nothing else really matters. It's slightly different when it comes to AI, the AI search. And you're going to want to measure all of that. So you're going to need a data guy that's going, going onto all the websites and going, okay, on similar web, this is where you rank. There's just a bunch of tools that you're going to have to buy. So organic is great, but it's not free. Because there's a lot of strategies that you have to do to pay people that know what they're doing. So there's no one here is going to be successful in SEO by putting up a website and luckily landing on some content that goes viral. It's not going to happen. It's just not. There's people who are very smart, highly focused on this and are spending lots of money on being rankable for their content. So we have to do the same, essentially.
Awesome. No, thank you. So you think about what, 30% ad and 60% organic is a good mix, or?
No, I would start the other way around. I would do 70% paid, 30% organic, and then as you retain traffic from the paid, I would wind it down. I would do 100% paid and then wind it down to 70, 50, 25. Like, because no one's going to know who you are at first, and you might get a video go viral, but it's unlikely. My experience is most people, when they start a YouTube page, see 300 people, 350 people, 400 people. It's very slow for the first 18 months, unless they have a celeb turn up on it, or do you know what I mean? There are things that there is also a viral formula that you could follow, but again, I could introduce to people that will charge you a lot of money to help you create a viral video, right? Like, we could create you a viral video, whether you would like it or not, we're not sure. Like, are you prepared to be controversial? Are you prepared to do something stupid? You know, what's the hook that you're prepared to use to go viral? Are you prepared to pay a celebrity to turn up at your church? You know, the virality of videos is not hard to achieve, but again, it's just not free. So there's this idea that this kid in their bedroom did this thing, went viral, and now they're famous. It's just not true. Mr. Beast, arguably the biggest YouTuber, put $500 into his first video, and then has subsequently put every dollar he's ever earned back into the next video. So he's net zero, really. His value is in the perceived value, or the what the value of his company's worth. But he recycles every penny back into the next video, and his production values are off the charts, and he's massive now, and everything goes viral. But he did that for 10 years before anybody knew who he was.
Wow. Thank you.
All right, well, we're gonna wrap it up. It's 11:30, but this has been phenomenal.
Thank you, everybody. Please reach out individually. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to pick up on all the comments. So text me or email me. Email's great because I have an assistant who will make sure I get back. She really runs God TV, so she will make sure that I get back to everybody. I've got a meeting as well, so thank you, Bishop. Honestly, I really appreciate the opportunity. We love you. I want to encourage you all. You're serving God. You're doing incredible things around the world. Um, like I just feel so privileged to be on a call with you, and I I just hope that Jesus blesses you in this space as well if you decide to step into it. And if we're meant to work together, may God ordain that, and let's commit all of our plans to Him.
I'm gonna mortgage Kyle Cersei's home and retain you guys.
Might want to ask where I live first, Joe.
All right, guys, I love you. I've got to go.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Take care. Love you all.
Bye.